All right, it is now broadcasting to YouTube.
All right, good. And I want to call to order this meeting of the regular meeting of the Amelia County Board of Supervisors. I'd like to declare, I want to see whether we have a quorum here. I'm going to call the district and just let me know that you're being heard. District 1. District 1.
Here.
District 2.
Here.
District 3.
Here.
District 4.
Here.
And District 5 is here. We do have a quorum, determine the fact that we have a quorum. And so I'm going to call this meeting to order. The first item on the agenda is that of the consent agenda. Move to approve or amend the board agenda. Is there a need to amend the agenda as presented?
Mr. Chairman, we have a need to put another appointment on,
right.
possible appointment for the workforce board.
Okay. Workforce board. All right. Are there any other amendments? Can I get a motion to approve the agenda with that amendment?
So moved, Mr. Chairman.
Got a motion. Further discussion on the motion? Not all those in favor, let it be known by the usual sign of aye. I'm sorry. Let's do it.
Yeah.
Let's do it. District 1.
Aye.
District 2.
Aye.
District 3.
Aye.
District 4.
Aye.
And District 5 votes aye. The next item on the agenda is the approval of minutes. We have the minutes of the April 15, 2020 regular meeting, April 22nd, 2020 continued meeting, April 27th, 2020 continued meeting, the May 1st, 2020 continued meeting, and the January 27th continued, January 27th joint public hearing that we had with the Board of Supervisors and the Planning Commission. These minutes were provided to you in your booklet. Are there any questions, or is there any one set of minutes that you got a problem with, or do you want to vote these as a block?
Mr. Chairman, I just have one question on April 22nd.
April 22nd.
Yeah, April 22nd, on the employee confidentiality agreements, the minute said there was no action was needed. But I believe there was action needed, that they were supposed to be signed and copies given to the treasurer and the commissioner of the revenue, and they haven't seen anything yet.
All right.
So I'm just wondering where that stands.
I've seen some that have been provided by Mr. Harvey. Mr. Harvey, you want to comment on that?
I don't have them all, but I've got the majority, and it's a work in progress. And it's I think Mr. Gore is probably more qualified to address what happens to them. But I also think we're just approving the minutes.
At this point,
I'm not exactly sure that I would suggest we get the minutes straight, and then at some point in time later discuss the status of the confidentiality agreements.
all right.
But I think his question was not about the status, it was whether the minutes were stated correctly.
Exactly, because there was some
Because
action
the minutes,
required.
right.
I would suggest an amendment as someone remembers, and move that the minutes be amended that particular way.
Okay, then I would move the minutes be amended to state that the necessary county employees would sign the agreements and give them to the treasurer and the commissioner of revenue, as well as file them for themselves. Those two need copies. And
All right.
and I would also move we accept all the other minutes as presented.
All right, I'll take that motion. Got a motion. You heard the motion. Further discussion on the motion? Not all those in favor, let it be known by the usual sign of aye. District 1,
Aye.
District 2, District 3,
Aye.
District 4,
Aye.
District 5 votes aye. And thank you, Mr. Harvey, I think that satisfies that issue. Let's go to item number 3 on the agenda is the approval of the April financial reports. We have those 4 reports that were included in your information. You have the treasurer's accountability report. You got the revenue report. We've got the expense report, and we've got the accounts payable report, the April financial reports. Is there any one report you want pulled out and dealt with individually, or do you want to take them as a block?
I move we take them as a block and approve them as presented, Mr. Chairman.
All right, got a motion. Further discussion on the motion that we approve them as a block. If not, all those in favor, let's vote. District 1,
Aye.
District 2,
Aye.
District 3,
Aye.
District 4,
Aye.
District 5 votes aye. That motion carries. We're at the public comment period. Do we have any public comment?
Mr. Chairman, I have 2 emails, but they're
Right.
both related to the budget. So I think they're more appropriate for the budget public hearing.
That would be more appropriate. That's correct. All right. There's no other public comment. If not, we'll move on to item number 4. Item number 4 is a VDOT monthly status report. David Whitaker, Director of Planning and Zoning, is going to present the monthly status report for VDOT activities in the county. Is Mr. Whitaker around?
Yes, sir.
All right.
You have the report was in your book.
In your book.
The notable information in there is they have provided a schedule of their surface treatments for the rest of the year, and they have a list of the routes that are currently underway and the ones that have been completed since last month. They have quite the list of roads that they're doing. Some of them will be the slurry, and some of them, as in 614 from Ponton Store to the ballpark, that was actually a tar and gravel. They've got
Right.
to the point where they put the lines back on the road. So they're moving along as scheduled.
All right. I
And
saw
I'll
that
answer
listing.
any questions you may have.
I saw that listing in the report. Any questions board members have for Mr. Whitaker? Any questions that board members have for Mr. Whitaker?
Mr. Chairman,
Yes.
sorry, I don't have a question, but just a comment, and it's not directed to Mr. Whitaker, as I realize he's just relaying the information tonight. I have myself some concerns, and have heard from other citizens that the VDOT continues to continue to pave frequently 360, even when there appears to be no potholes, damage, or others, while we have roads throughout the county that are both unpaved and in poor shape with current paving. I would just like to note my concerns about that, and I'm sorry VDOT is not here tonight to discuss that. I would love to invite them to a future meeting to discuss.
All right, Mr. Whitaker, did you get that? I assume that VDOT knows what they're doing, but anyway,
One
Whitaker?
thing to note on that is 360 falls under the federal highway program. So that's a different funding pot. I know that doesn't change the concern, because I agree wholeheartedly.
right.
There's a lot done on 360, then the secondary, but those are 2 different pots of money. May ease the pain there a little bit. Yeah, and I'll get to word to Mr. Bates and see if he can come to next meeting.
Thank you, Mr. Whitaker. Thank you,
All
Mr.
right.
Whitaker. I appreciate that.
Thank you, Mr. Whitaker. All right, any other questions for David Whitaker? All right, then we'll move on to item number 5. Amelia County School Board give us an update on school activities and the school board meetings. Is Dr. Harper on?
Yes, sir. Can you hear me?
Yes, I can. Welcome.
Thank you, sir. Good evening to you and members of the board. I hope everyone is well. Just give you a few updates. Last week, our families returned student learning modules at all 3 schools, and we had a very high return rate, so we're very excited. We appreciate the efforts of parents, grandparents, family members, all of whom, along with Amelia teachers and staff, helped students advance through 4th quarter materials. While the situation has certainly been less than optimal, we appreciate everyone's efforts at providing continuity of learning during our school closure. Next week, Amelia County High School will participate in one of 2 planned graduation ceremonies. In addition to an anticipated in-person ceremony, hopefully, which will be in August, the high school will provide individual graduates the opportunity to walk across the stage and receive their diploma in what will result in a video graduation program. It will take 3 days for us to acknowledge approximately 140 graduates, and we'll be starting that process next week.
All right.
Our program also will be ending tomorrow as EBT cards are being sent to families in a new feeding program. In your board packet, you have several documents. You should have the financial report for April. Revenues and expenditures are appropriate for the 10th month of the fiscal year. In fact, they're aligned but lower than what one would anticipate for this time of year. We're currently at 83% of the way through the school year and have revenues and expenditures at 73%. As you're aware, we do anticipate reduced revenue from the state this year due to a decline in ADM, and we are conserving funds to carry over to next year as we anticipate a need to offset losses in state sales tax and lottery revenue. And finally, in your packet, you should have a copy of the status of expenditure of carryover funds. Projected costs and actual costs for each item are provided to you, as well as an accounting of the current status of each item. Many of these projects have been completed and a few have been canceled. I'm happy to answer any questions that you have at this time.
Good information, Dr. Harper. Questions, comments from board members? Any questions or comments board members have for Dr. Harper?
Dr. Harper, I'd just like to thank the schools and all their employees for the extraordinary work dealing in this very unprecedented time. As someone with 2 children who've gone through the offline packets, I think it was successful given all of the conditions we had to deal with. And thank you for that.
Thank you, sir.
Other comments from board members? Dr. Harper, I appreciate the information, very interesting, and you guys seem to be weathering this kind of virus epidemic situation fairly well, and you're to be commended there accordingly.
Well, thank you. As always, we appreciate the support of the Board of Supervisors, and we really appreciate the collaborative relationship. Thank you again for the opportunity.
All right, thanks again. All right, Board of Supervisors, we're back to the board. We're at Board of Supervisors committees and activity reports. Any member wants to give an update on their committee meetings they've attended or any other activities they've been involved in? District 1?
I had a CRC meeting this morning. Went very well. Melanie is here. She will elaborate on anything that we have. We also had a regional jail authority meeting today. Superintendent Jim Davis is retiring, as well as there's a major position, which is the second in command in the jail, that needs to be filled. I set that board with 2 other individuals, and we made a selection, and now Lieutenant Davis has got to take that by the horns and do something with it. That's
All right. All right, District 2.
Not too many meetings for me since the last supervisors meeting. The only interesting thing would be Piedmont Senior Resources has had the finance director resign and they're searching for a new one.
All right. District 3.
I don't have anything new to report on.
All right. District 4.
Yes, sir. The IDA has not met during the pandemic, so there's nothing new to report there. I believe we are anticipating a meeting coming up in the next month, hoping we can get that virtual, I believe is the current status. We just had a social services board meeting today, and I'm pleased to welcome Laura Coleman to that, who the board approved the nomination of last month. And so she was able to make that meeting. With the Social Services Advisory Board being fully staffed, and we did go through organizational meeting and elect the chair and vice chair and move forward. So good progress from that standpoint. I'm sure Ms. Pullen can provide much more detail, but in general, I do want to say the social services has also worked very hard to continue all the activities that they provide and benefits to our citizens in a very unusual circumstances for them, and have been able to continue delivering in all cases that they've been asked for. There were, Ms. Pullen has provided some good updates in the monitor the last several weeks that I hope everyone has seen. And finally, the Regional Social Services Board that I'm a member of has not had any meetings since then as well, but have continued to provide us updates that similarly they are continuing along offering their services as well. Thank you.
All right. And District 5, I attended, of course, the Community Policy Management Team meeting. We've had not only one in April, but we also have had a call-in meeting, and then Roger, I was supposed to attend the PSR WebEx, but I couldn't do it because I was involved with the Tobacco Commission. We had met both Monday and Tuesday, and so we did that through a WebEx activity, and might add that we gave away several grants that will affect directly or indirectly the PD in which we, Amelia is a part of, and a lot of that, some of that, most of that went to community college, but there is a report that should be a news release in this coming paper as a follow-up to that those meetings, activities, and so forth. That's pretty much all I've got at this particular point. Thank you for at least, looks like we've been busy. Item number 4 is Commonwealth Regional Council. Melody Foster will speak to the board regarding services at CRC. Melody?
Good evening.
Good evening.
I understand that one of the board members had some questions about some of the services that we provide. I just wanted to go over some of this with you. As you know, each month, I'm pretty sure you have in your board packet this month, we provide the CRC's items of interest each month. And like I said, I'm sure each of you have a copy of that this month. One of the main services we provide is grant writing for our member localities and for 501c3 nonprofits within those localities. We provide many of the funding opportunities that come across our desk to the localities and nonprofits and alerts that we send out for this. However, more importantly, one of the main things we do is we have a networking with the localities so that the localities can let us know, what some of their funding needs are. An example of this in Amelia would be a couple of years ago, we worked with Amelia County on funding needs for a new water tank. They came to us, told us about their needs. We made contact with the Department of Health, found out that was a good fit for that, helped them apply for a loan grant, and actually did receive the funding. Ultimately, the county, after meeting with the funding agency and going through some of the process, decided to decline that loan grant. But I'm sure many of you remember that. That was pretty recent. Also recently, we assisted the county in applying for funding from VDOT to install pedestrian walkways around the schools. We hope to hear from that this summer. That those announcements should be made this summer, assuming that the legislature doesn't, hold back any of that funding. We've also done some research for Amelia County on law enforcement. Mr. Gleason asked us about funding for purchasing a license plate reader for the sheriff's office, and we've provided some research and some information on that. That's actually this past month. And then we also have worked with the county trying to find funding for the Hindle building. We've worked with the library and with the Love Covenant Fellowship to find funding for their playground equipment. So, a lot of things come to us. We do a lot of research on grant writing and funding opportunities, and then, provide that feedback and then move forward if it's, the county's efforts. Other ways that Amelia benefits by being a member of the CRC is there are a lot of regional things, that y'all are a part of that's very helpful to Amelia. I'm sure most of you remember just recently we got funded from the Economic Development Administration for our comprehensive economic development strategy that Amelia County is a part of. And because of that funding, now you are eligible for EDA grants that previously you were not. And we did just recently find out there is some funding that is available through EDA related to COVID-19. I'm probably going to be sending something out on that by the end of the week. So, that's a benefit that you have. Other regional projects and programs that benefit Amelia, we do regional emergency planning. We get all of that funding through the State Homeland Security Grant Program that comes directly to the CRC. And quite a few projects we've done that include, funding for Amelia County. We've done debris management plans, a regional volunteer donation, coordination and management plan. We've just got funding recently to do regional family assistance and joint information center plans. So all of those include Amelia County as well. I know many of you were involved in helping us provide input through environmental planning for the watershed implementation plan. I know, like I said, I'm sure most of you remember that. Annually, we receive funding for our rural transportation program. I know you were talking about roads earlier, and I agree with what David said when you were talking about, the needs of probably some needs you have in secondary roads. The 360 would be more in the federal highway funding program. So we can assist you, if you have some needs on some of the roads, maybe we can work with VDOT to find other funding streams for your road projects. And then also another program that we've worked on in the past and present is we've gotten funding from FEMA for the CRC Regional Hazard Mitigation Plan. We have an approved one right now that Amelia is part of. And when you're a part of that FEMA funding includes pre-disaster mitigation funds and hazard mitigation grant funds that you're eligible for because you're a part of that plan. We also have recently applied to update that plan and are waiting to find out the funding status of that. And then also another activity that we do that we contract with localities to do is updating comprehensive plans. We just recently finished the town of Keysville's. Last year did the joint plan for Lunenburg County in both towns. So that's something that, we're heavily involved in. And so for your future updates, you might want to check with us and talk to us about that. Other things that are a little bit different that we also provide services for is we provide regional training opportunities. One specifically is for FOIA certifications. Usually we hold a workshop every year where the FOIA Council comes down and does the training and gives you the necessary certifications you need. We normally do that in April, but as we all know, with everything that's going on with COVID-19, we have not been able to do that. I did check with them recently, and we are going to check into doing one virtually, just like you're holding this meeting tonight. So we just got to get some dates from him. So if you're interested in that, let me know, and that's something we can help you with. Also, another thing that we've done in the past that we talked about at today's meeting, at our council meeting, is we've provided redistricting assistance in doing the mapping for redistricting. As you know, each 10 years after the census, every locality has to, do redistricting. So we are already talking about that, already put in our budget for next year to buy some redistricting software so that we can continue providing this assistance. So as we go back to the items of interest, like I said, the reason we put that in, give it to you every month to put in your board packet is to help you be more aware of what we're doing, what services we're providing. We've discovered that previously, a lot of times boards had no idea what we were working on until we'd come before them every year at budget time and ask for funding. So we're trying to make sure that you are aware of all the services that we provide. And also just seeing what other people are doing can give you ideas of projects of your own. So with that, do you have any questions?
Questions or comments? That's very, very interesting, and I appreciate that. Questions or comments from board members?
District 1, I have a couple.
Uh-huh.
Melanie, can you explain the benefit of SIDS and then explain the benefit of having Cumberland come into CRC? And I don't know if you gentlemen know it or not, but Cumberland was in the CRC and then
That's right. That's right.
For years. And Melanie, as well as myself and several others, more so Melanie, did quite a courting process to get them back into the company. So if you'd explain that, Melanie, it might enlighten them. So.
Yeah. As you stated, when we were going through the process of getting our comprehensive economic development strategy put together, we were looking at the entire footprint of Planning District 14, which the footprint of Planning 14 includes Cumberland and Nottoway, if you look at it at the state level, the way it's been drawn. But both of those, like you said, for a number of years have chosen not to be a member of the Commonwealth Regional Council. We did extend another request for them to come back in when we were going through that process, because we understood from EDA at the time, if they were to try to come in later, we wouldn't be able to accept them. So we wanted to make sure they had the same benefit of this program that we do. And as I said earlier, if you have an approved SEDS, that's the acronym for this strategy, you are eligible to receive EDA funding. If you are not in an approved SEDS area, you can't even apply for EDA funding if you wanted to. So we extended that invitation twice during that process. They declined both times. But after we had already submitted it and we're waiting for approval, as some of you may know, the Board of Supervisors in Cumberland County had a total changeover at the last election. So they approached me after the election to see if there was still an opportunity for them to become a member, which of course we said certainly, and after that we decided, well, let's call EDA one more time and see if Cumberland comes back, if they can still participate, because, we would hate for them to be a member and not have that opportunity. They decided, yes, let's figure out how to do this. So for a little while, they held off on the approval of our SEDS, trying to figure what the best way was to include Cumberland. They ended up deciding to go ahead and approve it, to not hold that up. And we are going to work with EDA to do an update of our SEDS to include Cumberland. So they also found a way for Cumberland to still have access to EDA funding by using the Go Virginia Region 3 diversification plan. They can use that as an eligible regional strategy if they needed to apply for EDA funding. So it was very important to us to get Cumberland back on board. We'd love to have Nottoway as well. But yes, I think it's been very good to have Cumberland back. And we've actually already done some work for them. We've already applied for 2 grants for them, and they just joined back in April.
All right. All right. Thank you so much. Very informative. Additional questions or comments from board members? Go ahead, Mr. Easter.
Okay, go ahead, Joseph.
Thank you, Ms. Foster. Appreciate that information. As you look at how all the different counties in the region use your services, Is it your general belief that Amelia is taking the best advantage and fully utilizing the services of the CRC? Or are there opportunities for us to further and better use your services?
I think, there's always an opportunity for every locality to use our services, but every locality has to make their decisions of what the priorities are of their county. They can, always pick up the phone, give us a call, do some brainstorming on what projects, are important to you that you need funding for. But I do think all of our localities, use us pretty well. Like I said, there's so many regional projects that are going on right now that all a part of, that it really benefits all of you, even if you're not individually applying for grants, constantly. So, we will certainly always entertain any project ideas you have. But I think the best thing that most localities can do, like I said, is try to figure out what your priorities are, what things you want to get done, and then come to us and let us try to help, see if we can find a funding source for you.
Thank you. The reason I asked that, and I think part of the reason we generally asked you to attend tonight, is you mentioned like the items of interest, and I just joined the board in January, have reviewed that each month since joining. I can't recall seeing Amelia mentioned in that, in the, at least I guess the 5 months of reports that I've seen. So I wasn't sure whether we are using it. It seems like there's a lot of other counties seem to be getting more use. And the examples you provided generally didn't seem, they were good and helpful, but didn't seem like any examples from Amelia that were recent.
Well, actually, the ones that I mentioned, maybe we haven't applied for a grant yet, but we're currently working with the county on finding funding for the Hendel building. In fact, I know one of my staff attended a meeting with Mr. Scott at the Hendel building, and other meetings were scheduled, but with everything that's going on with COVID-19, I believe those have been canceled. We're still actively, I think, working with the, New Covenant Church. And then also like you said, in this month's CRC items of interest, even if it's not specifically Amelia, the emergency planning projects, those cover Amelia County. As I mentioned, the SEDS covers Amelia County. These different projects, the DQ Watershed Implementation Plan, that covers Amelia County. So those do specifically cover the county. And if you weren't a part of our organization, you wouldn't have access to those projects.
Thank you. I think that's very helpful. This has been very enlightening tonight. Maybe there's some way we can discuss offline, about maybe providing an Amelia specific update on say a quarterly or twice a year basis, just so we get some of that great examples like you were saying that may not make it into the items of interest. But I think those were wonderful examples and love to be able to understand them a little more regularly. Thank you.
Mr. Chairman.
Yes,
I'll address that.
sure.
When it comes to trying to talk to the CRC about a loan, a grant, or whatever it might be, when it came to the water tower situation, I talked to Melody and Todd about the water tower and the possibilities of a loan or a grant. We wanted a grant. Within 3 days, they had found a $300,000 grant. We turned it down after we got it, but they were on it almost immediately. It was so fast, we couldn't get the heads together. The next thing was I asked Todd as well as Melanie about the vehicle license plate register or reader. It's computerized, goes in a police car. It runs about $43,000 and it runs about $2,000 a year, I believe, Melanie.
I do not have that with me. I want to say the number's actually higher than that, Mr. Gleason, but I didn't bring that with me tonight.
Like 24,000 a year. But anyway, that is extremely high, but Todd went to work on that the day I asked him. He replied to me by email, 2 situations, and he talked to 5 other sheriffs and police departments that had been involved with the license plate readers. And he gave me the pros and cons of it. He's still looking. So that's the way they function. They do it fast, they do it real well, and a lot of the problems that they have is just bureaucracy, red tape and bureaucracy. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Gleason. Any other comments? The important thing to remember is that there are a resource in the area, and a resource in the PDC. And that as we get into, there's an array of resources and that they have at their disposal, which help us to not only would help us do to complete projects that are relative to Amelia, but also give us an idea as to what's happening with our neighbors and so forth. So appreciate that very much.
Chairman, can I add one more comment?
Sure.
I failed to mention, we have so many grants that we're applying for recently. I know I said this morning at our council meeting, we have 9 grants that we will put in just a couple of weeks' time by Friday. And one other one I should have mentioned is another state Homeland Security grant that we're working on. That's a regional project for election security for the different election boards,
Right,
and Marion
right.
County is one of them. And this is to help them meet mandated security activities by House Bill 2178. So, that's a pretty big project that we're working on that we'll be submitting on Friday. And as I said, Amelia County is part of that. So that's another specific example that while Amelia is a part of a bigger project, that again, hopefully we're going to find some funding to help fund that.
All right. All right. Thank you. Thank you so much. Any further questions from board members? Melody, thanks again.
Yes, sir.
All right. All right. We're at Department of Finance. Under item number 1 under Department of Finance, is that of the 2021 budget public hearing. There's a public hearing that to be able to give our residents an opportunity to voice their opinion, ideas, thoughts, or whatever you about the 2021 budget. I know it's been duly advertised, and Mr. Harvey, any comments before you or Carla, before we get into that activity?
And Mr. Chairman, I think Ms. Cave is prepared to just give a little brief synopsis about the budget. Obviously, then we'll work into a public hearing, and I'll remind everybody that we've got to have a week after the end of the public hearing before we can adopt a budget. So it's something that we want to make sure everybody understands. It takes another week to finally have a budget that you can adopt after the public hearing.
All right, then you can have Carla go ahead and do her preliminary comments.
Sure. It's nothing too new to add to what you already know, but just to summarize it for the public, our budget process started back in December, and we had a good draft budget about a week before the pandemic hit and brought about lots of unknown revenue changes happening in the upcoming year. We had 3, I believe, budget meetings with the Board of Supervisors. Y'all discussed changes to make, additions to add, things to delete, any changes. And ultimately, we have come up with the advertised budget that Chairman Harris had said was duly advertised for 2 weeks in the amount of $35,144,733. This is an increase over our current year budget of $1,085,303. And this budget includes a 3-cent real estate tax increase and a 5-cent personal property tax rate decrease. So those are the highlights of this budget. And I guess we can open it up to public hearing. Everybody's ready.
Yes, any other comments, Mr. Harvey, before we go ahead and open this up?
Yes, sir. The public has an opportunity to call in. There's instructions on the county website as to how you call in. You can also email your comments in, and we'll post them during the public hearing. So
you might also add that the 3 minutes limit in terms of presenting, making their comments and so forth. I would ask that they would limit their comments to 3 minutes on it.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes,
can we give the phone number and the email address now rather than having people go look it up?
Mr. Harvey, you want to go ahead and do that?
Okay, the telephone number to call in live is 1-844-992-4726. And if you would rather email your comments in, you can send them to publiccomments@ameliacova.com. That's publiccomments@ameliacova.com.
Thank you, Taylor.
Thank you, Taylor.
Thank you.
All right. We are ready to accept comments, calls or comments from the public. I'm going to go ahead then and open up the public hearing and entertain comments from any caller or anyone who would want to call in.
I'm seeing a message from Mr. Stern that there are no callers, so if you'd like, I'll see if we can put an email up for you.
That'd be good.
Okay, there's the email. It's from Mrs. Bone, and I think the way we decided that we would best offer this is I will read the email.
All right.
The folks that are on the telephones will be able to hear it, but it's also being recorded, so it is part of the public record.
Becomes a part of, okay.
We've got an email from Debbie Bone sent Tuesday, May the 12th. It says, please consider approving the budget presented by Amelia County Public School Systems. In order to continue providing the best the children of Amelia deserve, we need to attract and keep highly qualified staff. This means everyone that helps with the education of all students. Being a veteran teacher of 21 years and a resident of Amelia County for 23 years, I support the raising of my taxes in order to support the budget for the school system. Debbie Bone.
All right. Thank you, Ms. Bone, for sharing those thoughts with us. You have another one?
Yes, sir. Okay, this email is from Becky Easter, sent Wednesday, May the 13th.
All right.
Subject, budget meeting. Hello, Board of Supervisors. I am writing to you today in regards to the approval of the proposed budget for the fiscal year 2021 and the proposed tax rates for the 2020 tax year. As a current county employee and taxpayer, I am in favor of the tax increase. At the county level, we work very hard to ensure our jobs are done to the best of our ability. Serving our community brings us great joy and happiness. We love our county and want to stay committed to working here. With the current tax rate, it is difficult to ensure pay increases for county employees each year. This makes the ever-growing economy difficult to keep up with every year. I feel that this increase will help not only with pay increases, but with many other county areas of need in the budget. Please consider making this great change for our county. I thank you for taking the time to read this and serve our county. I appreciate you and all you do to help our county be successful. Sincerely, Becky Easter.
All right. Thank Ms. Easter for that, sharing her comments. Do we have anybody call or any call-outs waiting?
I have a voicemail if you'd like me to turn it loose.
Go ahead and do it.
Hold on.
Before doing that, I wasn't aware that was an authorized method of providing public comment. I think all of us could probably provide messages that we received individually. Is that what we would like to do as precedent?
I'm sorry.
Mr. Chairman?
Yes, your question. Did you?
Yes.
At this point,
I
I
thought
would.
he was saying we were going to play an individual voicemail. And I'm asking if that's what we'd like to do, is to share all the messages that we individually received.
I would have no problem doing
I
it.
didn't understand.
I would have no problem doing it at this point.
I'll withdraw.
Oh, that's fine. I just wish we had been prepared for that. I could have saved all the calls and emails that I received if I'd known we were going to share individually.
I would think that the individual supervisor would use his or her discretion as it relates to what to share and what not to share, and how they would want to share it.
I simply think some of us are at a disadvantage if we didn't know they were going to be shared.
All right.
Because I would have saved some.
Comments.
It's not an approved method.
Okay. Do we have any other comments?
There is a call-in user on the screen. There's somebody online, but they're muted.
Who is it?
Who?
Call-in user 2.
Caller, you, okay.
Can Sean unmute them?
He says yes.
He said yes.
Go for it.
Go for it.
Caller is unmuted.
All right. Hello. Hello, caller number 2. You are on. You want to make your comments on the Amelia County Board of Supervisors 2021 budget? Hello.
They're not talking.
They're not talking. Okay. I'm hearing. I'm seeing. All right.
Hey, Chairman, I'm getting messages that people are trying to call in and it's asking for code access. Nobody can access it through the call-in number. So we probably have a ton of people trying to call right now and they can't get in. Sean, do you have a number that they punch it in on their phones?
Yes, actually, that was a part of the message. I'm sending it out right now to everyone. 210-499-643. Yes, they have to have that code to join the meeting. And the code is 210-099-643.
All right, so anybody that needs to call needs to punch in 210-099-643. Thank you.
All right.
Got a couple more emails if you'd like to have them now.
Let's Let's go with emails.
Oh, I think that's the one is that the one we just had, isn't
That's
it?
the one we
Yes.
just had, Becky
Yes.
Easton. That's correct.
Where does she work, Taylor? Becky Easton?
I'm not sure.
Elementary school teacher.
Oh, okay, thank you.
I'm sorry we're having difficulties in terms of the members.
Same one.
Okay. That's
Same one.
one.
Same.
Sorry having difficulties here. I would not expected this.
All right, let's try it again. Here we go. This is an email that came in this afternoon. I don't think it's got a name that I can decipher, but the message says, please support the school budget. The school system is the heart of the county because the schools are the people and the future of the county. Teachers need to be paid what is needed by the comparison of surrounding counties. The school cannot afford to lose good teachers to other counties. Please support Amelia's future.
All right.
And it looks like we have one more.
All right. We have a call-in user.
Yep.
All right, here's the last email that I have. This is an email from Linda Whittington
Okay.
titled Budget Hearing Input, Board of Supervisor Members. My first concern is your proposal to increase our real estate taxes in these very uncertain times. Perhaps the board is suggesting this in order to help cover the additional $140,000 to $150,000 increase for 2 additional salaried administrative positions of county planner and economic developer. While perhaps one of these positions might be needed in the near future, how can we possibly justify this much additional expense at this time of financial strain for many of our county's citizens? Our neighboring counties seem to be reducing their budgets, not increasing them. I suggest that at least one and maybe both of these 2 positions be eliminated from this proposed budget. Respectfully submitted, Linda Whittington, 13941 Genito Road, Amelia.
All right. Thank you, Ms. Whittington, for sharing those comments. Let's take the caller. Let's go with the caller, Sean.
Caller has been unmuted.
All right. Good afternoon.
It looks as if they've left the meeting.
Oh. Oh,
Yeah, they have left the meeting.
they have left.
Yes.
All right.
I have a caller told me they tried to call and they were talking and nobody could hear them. I don't think we're having much of a public hearing if people can't.
We've got a.
They were muted. They have to wait till we unmute them.
That's exactly right.
They were unmuted.
Correct.
We have
Yeah.
caller number 4.
All right, well, here's call-in user 4.
Caller
All
4
right.
is unmuted.
All right. Hello, go ahead with your comments, caller.
Hello?
Yes. Yes, how are you?
Hi, good, thank you.
Good. Do you want to make
that was a
comments?
little challenging to get through.
I apologize for that. We definitely would like to hear your comment on the 2021 budget proposed by the county.
Hi, well, this is Grace Wyant, and I was just calling to tell the board I appreciate the consideration of the new budget, and that I think it's long overdue, that, you know, the teachers and the deputies of the county have been underpaid for a very long time. And I understand the reservations with raising taxes, but in order for this county to grow, it is going to be necessary to increase our tax base if we want to provide the services needed and retain good staff. So again, I just wanted to thank you guys for looking out for county employees and ultimately, you know, retaining hopefully more citizens of the county to stay in a town that they love. And by helping provide better stable employees long-term, you know, also benefiting our children.
Right. Thank you so much for your comments, and I appreciate your patience and your bearing with us here.
All right, thank you. Bye-bye.
Thank you so much. Do we have another caller on?
Not at this time.
Not at this time.
And it's a matter of they call in while there's comments being made, and I don't want to unmute them until we're ready for them.
Right, right. I'm in agreement with you.
So there probably is a delay.
Okay. Taylor, mention that number again, just in case anybody is waiting.
Okay. The telephone number is 1-844-992-4726. And then the meeting number is 210-099-643.
All right. You might again remind them that, again, talk about after tonight, how long we're talking about this laying on the table before dealing with, again.
And the board will need a week before it can adopt and appropriate the budget. And I'm sure that individual board members will be glad to receive comments in the interim. But it's a week.
Good. Good. I had several people to talk to me about the budget itself, but they have indicated that they would see what kind of comments we got tonight, as a matter of fact. They didn't want to share, but they wanted to see what kind of comments we got tonight. These were people who supported the budget, by the way, supported the one that was put out.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes.
I'd like to add, I did speak with Mrs. Whittington, and she called me and before she sent that email in, and I reminded her that the original request was for 4 employees, and we've already changed it to 2.
You're right, Mr. Scott. I got that. I got that same question. All right. Anybody else out there? Do we have any callers waiting?
No callers at this time, but we see 25 people watching YouTube at this moment.
$25 people watching YouTube, okay? It's an opportunity. There's 25 people watching YouTube.
I guess they just want to watch.
I think they just want to watch this to see who was going to call and what kind of comments, if any, did we get. We would get. All right.
We do have a caller.
We've got a caller.
Caller number 5. I'm unmuting.
Unmuting. Hello, caller
Hello,
number.
Frank. This is David. I'm just calling through to make sure this thing works properly, and I had absolutely no problem getting through.
Thank you, David.
Thank you, David. And in any typical meeting, we do have many people who observe the meetings but don't necessarily speak. So I don't think the number watching is alarming.
I'm going to close it in about 4 or 5 minutes here. It's a pleasure of the board. I'm going to go ahead and close the public hearing and bring it back to and we go back, resume with the agenda if it's okay.
I agree. If we have no callers and no emails.
I agree.
Thank you, sir.
All right. I'm going to close the public hearing and go back to our agenda. Under old and new business. Yes.
Before we move on, would you like to set a continued meeting for a week or a little bit from now to consider the budget, the adoption of the budget?
Yes, that would be good. Pleasure of the board.
Well, now that the public hearing's closed, do we want to discuss anything? I had some comments from some people that I'd like to bring up for the board's consideration.
Go ahead, Mr. Scott.
Okay, well, I had a call from somebody representing the fire department and wants to know whether or not they can have a 5-cent relief on their personal property tax as well.
All right.
There's 2 different personal property taxes, one in general, and then there's one for fire and rescue, and they're asking to have a 5-cent reduction as well. I don't know the impact, the total dollar impact that would be. Maybe Carla could tell.
You just give me the comments that were made, and then we'll consider those when we doing our meeting.
And the other one was they wanted to make sure that their new truck was included in the budget, and I believe it is.
All right.
New fire truck. Is that right, Sean? You're nodding.
Yes, yeah, because that's in the standard fire department budget, that $500,000.
That's what I thought.
Right. Trucks, yeah.
Right.
Okay. Yeah, so the request was just to lower the personal property tax for fire and rescue by 5 cents.
I hear you.
I think it's fair.
Scott, I just want to make sure I understand. So the personal property tax we proposed generally is $4.15. And if I understand correctly, the current personal property tax rate on fire and rescue then is 50 cents, and they're proposing to reduce below 50.
Yeah, to 45.
Okay, so it's about 4 times. It's about 4 times lower than anything else already.
Yes.
And just to be clear, tell you guys how that works. So what we get is we get a reduction on one vehicle, which is supposed to be your primary use fire department vehicle. Typically that ends up being the most expensive vehicle you have for obvious reasons, but it's just on that one vehicle. I mean, 5 cents, it's really not going to make much of a difference at a 50-cent rate anyway, I think.
I'm going to remind you all that we are entertaining comments at this moment. We'll be able to deal with this in the continued meeting.
Okay. Those are the only comments I got on the budget. I'm totally surprised that that's all, but.
I was too, Mr. Scott. I was also surprised, but anyway. Okay, we're going to go. I'm going to close the public hearing and let's go to our old and new business, item number 6 on our agenda. Item number 1 under that is broadband equipment co-location. Board will hear plans to locate broadband equipment on our county property. And that information, the copy of the agreement, et cetera, was included in your packet. Mr. Holiday.
Yes, Mr. Chairman, under item 6, there's the document is entitled Amelia County Broadband Equipment Co-location Agreement. And this agreement is to allow River Street to put some transmission equipment up on top of the water tower. And I think it's complete. I think it's been reviewed by legal for both, and this part is good to go. We do have a few issues with access and easement and things that we're working on, but they're outside of this agreement. And Mr. Gore, I think, is still at the meeting. He might have something else to add.
Mr. Gore, are you still with us?
I am with you.
All right.
Good evening. Good evening.
Anything to add to?
I think that Taylor summed it up. Well, state code, whenever the county sells or transfers or conveys any of its property rights, the state code requires a public hearing and notice and public hearing. So that's what's been advertised, and that's what's on the agenda. To open up a public hearing, conduct that for any comments before the county conveys rights to the water tower to River Street. The lease, like Mr. Harvey said, the lease is pretty much where it's going to end up. The only thing we're still working to clarify is the particular access rights for River Street to run its fiber and any other utilities they need to run to the tower. I think there's going to be some conversations with Mid-Atlantic Broadband, who's also in the process of looking to acquire some access rights. But that's a technicality that we'll get through hopefully soon. That doesn't really change the terms of the lease as far as the number of years, as far as the rate for the rental, which is all really set out in the comprehensive agreement. With Dinwiddie, the county, and River Street. So all those terms pretty much were negotiated when you approved the PPA agreement. And so the co-location agreement is really just a formality to codify that as it relates to this water tower. So the code requires, when you convey rights like this, to have a public hearing, and that's what's on your agenda tonight. Happy to answer any questions.
So is this water tower in lieu of the GBC tower? Originally, we were putting antennas on the GBC tower. What happened to that?
The GBC tower antennas were for a different company.
Right.
And
But this is instead of that.
This is instead of that. This tower is higher. The issue is the Mid-Atlantic Broadband cable is on the wrong side of the train tracks.
Oh.
The railroad is a very difficult group to deal with at times. But it is a taller tower, so that's where River Street needs to be.
That's where they need to be?
Yes, sir.
Okay, so what do we need to do here?
We've actually got to have a short public hearing, just to give the public a chance to comment as to whether this is a good use of county property, and then close a public hearing and make a decision.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes.
the rent from this would go where?
The county reaps some of it, but the actual owner gets, I think it's 25% of it, according to the agreement we have for the water tower. They were to reap 25, I think it's 25% of the overall proceeds from anything that we might lease from the top of it.
I couldn't remember the Scott lease for the county to put the tower on the property. I thought that indicated that the Scott family got all of the proceeds from any rentals from antennas or otherwise.
Mr. Chairman, I don't have that, and obviously I'm not in the office to be able to pull it up, but I think it's 25%.
Okay.
I think that's right.
All right. Mr. Gore,
Yes, sir.
this discussion that we're having on this issue, is this considered a public hearing?
No, you need to formally open the public hearing for public comment.
One has been advertised.
It has been advertised.
For now, yes, sir.
Okay, well, it's not listed as a public hearing on my, I guess that's.
We didn't put it in.
Okay, then I'm gonna go ahead and open public hearing to receive comments and some input on this broadband equipment being located on county property, i.e., the water tower, county water tower. Public hearing is now open, and so that makes us officially open, so, okay. Additional comments? And at this point, if anyone from
just to confirm, yes, Mr. Harris, just to confirm that it was advertised the same ways as well, that they could email in advance or during call with the same access as before, or join the WebEx live. Yeah, it was advertised.
That's exactly right. All right. So are there other comments that anyone wants to make? I'm gonna open it up to the public now. Anyone from the public who wants to get in to make a comment or can do so at this point also. Are there any additional comments to be made by board members?
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to make a quick comment if I could.
Sure.
Just based on the citizens I've talked to, I think they're all more concerned with getting internet than how we get it or where we put it. So I haven't heard any negative comments as far as where the equipment goes. They are just waiting for the service.
I would agree with you. I got four phone calls since I got some folk in my area who are working from home and finding it very difficult because they don't have access to broadband or the internet. So I'm hearing you.
I've had similar comments too.
Yes. All right, then I'm gonna close the public hearing on that and bring it back to the board. What's your pleasure?
What are we looking for, to approve this lease tonight?
Yes, sir.
All right, I move to approve the lease as written.
Got a motion to approve the lease as written. Is that what you need, Mr. Gore?
Well, there may be some minor modifications to it based on how we secure the access rights for River Street. So,
the motion to say to proceed with the implementation.
To authorize the county administrator and county attorney to finalize and execute the lease would be fine.
That's exactly right. That's the motion. Further discussion on the motion. If not, all those in favor, let it be known. District 1.
Aye.
District 2.
Aye.
3.
Aye.
District 4?
Aye.
District 5 votes aye. All right. Item number 2, Mr. Harvey, amendment to the comprehensive agreement broadband network operation. Item number 7.
Yes, sir. The document that's, so
Go ahead.
this document that's in your board packet,
In the booklet, that's correct.
very same one that Dinwiddie has already approved. It has to do with bonding. It's something we've got to have in place so the money flows like it's supposed to. And it's obviously been approved by council for everybody, as well as Dinwiddie's Board of Supervisors.
That didn't require a public hearing, Mr. Gore.
No,
Correct.
sir. No,
It's the
sir.
documentation that's been prepared. That's what that is.
That's right. And just to elaborate a little bit, so for the construction of any tower and under the agreement with River Street, they're required to get a performance bond similar to any construction project, right?
Okay.
It's the county. They went to their surety company to get those bonds as they're starting to look at construction of towers, and their surety company was concerned that they were concerned that they were being asked to provide surety that the towers would provide a guaranteed amount of broadband coverage. And of course, that wasn't the point of the surety. It's just it's a construction, it's a performance bond, right?
Right.
It's to guarantee that the tower gets built. And
Right.
if it doesn't, that the county can call on the bond and complete the project itself. So it was really just a clarification that River Street asked if the counties were okay with, because it enables them to go forward and get their bonds in place. And it's not substantive, it's consistent with the agreement. And so my recommendation would be to approve it.
All right, what's the pleasure of the board?
Move to approve, Mr. Chairman.
Got a motion to approve as presented? Further discussion on the motion? If not, let's vote. District 1?
Aye.
District 2?
Aye.
District 3?
Aye.
District 4?
Aye.
District 5 votes aye. My motion carries. All right.
Mr. Harris, if I might, the question y'all had on the previous item about how much the lessee gets of any funds that are generated from that use of the tower for subleasing, that's 25%. The county gets the other 75.
Okay.
Very good.
Thank you, Mr. Whitaker. All right, item number 8, special event permit, AC tractor pull. This is an annual event. Saturday, being held Saturday, June 13, 2020. Tom Scott Park annual event, and this paperwork has already been done on this, and it looks okay to me. I need a motion to approve it.
Move to approve, Mr. Chairman.
Got a motion? Further discussion on the motion?
Mr. Chairman, I would like to point out,
Sure.
under line 2, section 2, it says 1,000 attendees.
I looked at that.
I'm sure that whoever's going to run it is going to run it legal, but that's a big number.
That's a big number, but there are some requirements that they would have to adhere to based upon the situation that exists, So.
Mr. Chairman, Will Jones, who applied for this, is online. He's aware of the governor's constraints on the size of crowds and all, and he's willing to work within the parameters that the governor has set up. But we don't have an ultimate date as when this thing would be allowed to go forward. Also in item 2, as Taylor mentioned, there is a clause that says a possible rain date down the road based on the norms or the decisions that the governor makes for how big of a crowd can be around. And I think Mr. Jones is on this stream. If he needs to weigh in and give his thoughts on what he's going to do to take care of the requirements of the higher higher levels of responsibility on this, I think it'd be good for him to weigh in. Now I'm going through it and I don't see him online now.
He's on there. I see him.
Yes, I'm on
I
tonight.
think as long as he can
He's on.
confirm, he'll comply with the law.
Mr. Jones, would you want to respond to those comments?
Absolutely. Thank you, Mr. Harris. I appreciate the opportunity to speak before the board tonight.
Sure.
Absolutely every event that, and this isn't my first one, I've been in front of the board. We're going to run it. I pride myself. We're going to run it absolutely legal with the utmost integrity to represent the county. So whatever requirements we're in at that point that the governor is asking us to comply to, we're fully aware that we will, and we definitely will be compliant to any regulations set forth based on the COVID-19 restrictions.
Thank you, Mr. Jones. I appreciate that. Appreciate that. All in favor of this request, let it be known by voting. District 1?
Aye.
District 2?
Aye.
District 3?
Aye.
District 4?
Aye.
And District 5 votes aye. Motion carries. Thank you, Mr. Jones.
Thank you, Mr. Harris. Good
All
seeing
right.
y'all.
All right.
Sir.
We have the county administrator's report. Taylor?
Okay, Mr. Chairman, we've got a list of things to go over. One of them that I want to go over that's actually didn't make the list is I've got Kent Emerson here, and Kent is prepared to brief everybody as to where we are with dealing with COVID and what we've got, how we're planning on coming out of this whenever the governor relaxes things. So if Mr. Emerson could take over, he's got a presentation for us.
All right.
I just wanted to give you all an update on where we stand since we are still under our local declaration here. As of today, the health department reports 21 cases in Amelia involving 7 hospitalizations and unfortunately 1 death attributed to the virus. No current breakouts as defined by the health department here. Statewide, we have over 4,000 hospital beds available, and we're only using 22% of the ventilators across the state. So as of right now, the state is still looking a good position. If you look at our cases of 21 and look back over the 66 days since we've made our declaration back on March 15th, you'll see that only 6 new cases in the past 30 days. So one could assume that the others would have resolved themselves by now. So overall, the county is looking pretty good compared to some of our neighbors. Currently, the staff has been engaged in preparation for reopening processes. Our Public Works Department has been working with the clerk of the circuit court, treasurer's office, voter registrar, commissioner of revenue, some of the other offices to build the shields that people are starting to see in place so that both the public and our workers will be safe when they determine they can come back to their job. Public Works also helped with the General District Court reopening earlier this week by marking the floor, creating areas for social distancing and whatnot as required by the courts. And the custodial staff has also been working diligently to keep the public as well as the work areas clean for everyone. While we still encourage everybody to, it requires services to do that remotely or electronically if possible, all the offices are moving as quickly as they can to safely open their offices based on the guidance from the governor. As some of you probably know, the DMV offices did open today. I believe they had some lessons learned, but hopefully the operations will become smoother as time progresses. We're going to continue along the process of reopening services as our staff and the public feels we're able to safely do so. As you all know, the governor instituted phase 1 for our part of the state last Friday. And the absolute earliest we could see phase 2 would be 2 weeks from that, which would be next Friday, May 29th. However, the governor has not publicized any decision about that yet. And that's all the information I have at this time. If anybody has any questions, I'll be happy to try to answer them.
Any questions? Okay, Taylor.
Okay.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes.
the only question I had was with all this federal money that's going to be floating around and the county will end up getting some and needs to pay back whatever's not used, are we setting up a separate tracking system for COVID related expenses, or are we just tracking everything the way we did before?
Roger, I have just included one line in the general fund in the departmental / miscellaneous budget right now. You'll see at the end of the general fund expenditure summary, there's a departmental / miscellaneous budget, and I've put a line there for COVID-19 expenses, and I'm keeping copies of all the invoices in case we ever need to provide those to anybody.
Excellent. Thank you.
That's good.
You're
Thank
welcome.
you, Carla.
No problem.
All right.
Well, along that line, Mr. Chairman, I have another question.
Sure.
So there were announcements in the Richmond Times Dispatch that counties all had received specific amounts had been told specific amounts of the federal stimulus they were to receive. Have we received the amount or been told the amount yet that we're supposed to receive? And do we know any further rules for it?
Yes, the amount is a little over 1.14 million for Amelia, and we're expected to receive it around June 1st.
Are there any conditions on that, Ms. Cave, or anything we have to do?
The only thing we need to do at this point is to send in our signed certification that says we understand the rules. We understand that this money can only be used on expenses directly related to COVID-19. And we had Frank, Taylor, and myself were the three required to sign off on that. We got that in. The due date was May 22nd. We got that in today to DOA, and they told us to expect funding around June 1st, electronically. And I'm going to get with the treasurer, but I think the best way to track that would be to open up a separate, just to keep those monies not commingled with the general fund.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yep. So we've got a plan, but yeah, it's a little over 1.14 million, and we return anything that we don't use.
Do we expect to spend anywhere near that on COVID-related expenses?
I highly doubt it, unless there's some miracle and we're told we can spend it on broadband progression. I was hoping we could make some progress with broadband if that here, and that has been a question that a lot of counties have asked, and I haven't seen really clear guidance on it.
Right.
But we'd have to make a lot of progress because this funding only covers expenses that we spend before December 30th.
It can be used.
I think we need to be. Go ahead.
It can be used for computers for people from working at home, right?
Correct. Yep.
Well, that's where I was going to, Mr. Scott. Is I think we need to be a bit more aggressive about this. Not just wait for expenses to come up. We need to be proactive. Can school expenses that were related to the pandemic be included, or are the schools separate?
Well, the schools actually have their own separate line of funding, and I know Carly is on this call. It's called the ESSER funds. It's the Elementary and Secondary School Relief Funds. It's very similar to the CARES Act, in which they have to agree to certain things they're going to spend it on. But I did see with the CARES Act, it seems to cover like transportation to get out the school lunches and anything that they would spend for virtual learning. And I'm going to get with the schools on that. I'm sure we can't double dip into both of those pots, but I want us to ensure that.
Oh no, I certainly don't anticipate double dipping.
We don't want to double dip. We just want to maximize what we can get.
Yeah, that's true.
Correct. I mean, I think we need to get the full set of criteria out to all of the department heads and make sure they're thinking about things like that. And even in the elections area, some of the new security they're going to have to do may qualify depending on how they build that out. We need to take advantage of what we can. I think we could easily use a large portion of that if we think creatively. I mean, certainly want it to be justified, but I want us to get whatever we're entitled to, as I'm sure other counties will.
Yes, I fully agree.
That's great. I appreciate the update.
Yeah,
Appreciate that update, Ms. Cave.
no problem. Thank you.
All right.
I'm sorry, I have one more question. I apologize. If I had not asked about that funding, how would we have found out about it?
Well, I've been involved in webinars, and we're getting emails from all sorts of agencies to ensure that people are aware of it. Our auditors
Heard
have
it on the
also-
news.
How would we, the board of supervisors, have been made aware?
probably during tonight's meeting right now, because Taylor was going to bring it up on this county administrator's report.
Oh, okay. I didn't see a line item for it. Okay, thanks. I'm glad I
It
asked.
was on the news also.
No, I understand. That's what I asked. That's what prompted me to ask. Just had
Right.
gotten no information directly from the county.
It's another great example why weekly reports would be nice, wouldn't they?
We're working on it.
I do agree. I do agree.
We're working on it. All right. Taylor, go ahead.
Right, Ms. Cave, you had a couple of things besides I can't think of the acronym now, the federal money. Do you want to run through any of those now?
Well, the
CARES
things
Act?
that I had prepared to speak on are also on the county administrator's report, so I'll just let you continue on.
Okay.
But I mean, I don't have anything specific related to the CARES Act unless there are other questions.
Okay. All right. Well, let's run through this.
Where are we on the agenda? I can't find any of these items that
We're
we're talking about listed on the agenda.
We're getting into, we're at the county administrator's report. That's where we are.
And I
I'm
brought
I'm
on
there.
And
There's
he
just
brought
none of
in,
them listed.
and he brought in Kent Emerson. Kent was not on, that was not on the agenda, but he used that. Kent was allowed to give us a report update.
He went first.
He went first.
Oh, I know. I'm just noting that it's not part of the agenda, yet we approved the agenda earlier, so I just want to call that out. Thank you.
All right. Taylor, let's start with waste management. That's where we are.
All right, the host fee, item 9 for, in your packet, host fee from Waste Management for April was $196,584, $584.44.
Excellent.
DMV Select Compensation Statement, item 10. Obviously, that's way down.
Taylor, I had a question on the DMV. What have those people been doing while the office has been closed?
The part-timer has been staying home and has not been getting paid. The salaried employee's been getting paid. She's come in a day or so a week to run titles for some of her different dealers. She's run some for the county, just doing general things.
Okay.
All right. Item 3 is Comcast. Actually, item number 11 is Comcast. They sent in a notice of a price decrease. Yep, and with that, I think maybe if one of the supervisors hadn't heard from Comcast today, they should be hearing from them shortly. The question had been asked as to how many customers there actually were in Amelia. And the Mr. Doherty, who I talked to today, was going to call and talk about that. That's actually it's proprietary information that they weren't prepared to divulge, but they can answer a lot of questions, I think.
Thank you, Mr. Harvey. You're correct. That was my question from January. I haven't received a call or message from him, but I'll look forward to getting in the next day or so. Appreciate it.
Okay. Sewer rate increase. We're going to turn this over to Ms. Cave to talk about how they've arrived at or how they're contemplating arriving at a final figure, which is, this is going to require, we wanted to bring it in tonight because it is going to affect the budget, but it's going to require a public hearing to change the rates, which would be either next month or the month thereafter. But Ms. Cave is here to talk about the increase.
All right.
Yes, at the suggestion of Joseph and Roger, we included an increased revenue stream coming from raising the water and or sewer rates enough to cover operational increased costs. And I got with Dale and we looked at the, the stream, and if we were to raise it 50 cents per 1,000 gallons, that would provide $20,000 of additional sewer revenue. We would just look at increasing the sewer costs. And there's a big calculation. We could go into a lot of detail on it, but it seems that that's the only need we have right now, is to increase sewer costs by 50 cents per 1,000 gallons, which would increase $20,000 in revenue. The average bill would increase 5.3%. One other thing I would like to note is I am definitely in favor of this rate increase. I think we need to do it more frequently than we have in the past. We did change our rate structure in 2017, but prior to that, we had not changed anything with our water and sewer since 1995. So this is definitely needed. Our water and sewer fund is what's considered an enterprise fund, which means really it should have the goal of supporting itself. Our general fund, transfers money to help with operational costs each year, but this is a step in the right direction.
I agree.
So that's all I got on that. But those rates are included.
Thank you, Ms. Cave. That's really helpful.
You're welcome.
Not to mislead anyone, but that also includes a $1 increase in the base rate. So if it was 18 for the base rate for a standard tap, it will go to 19 plus 50 cents per gallon. The numbers come out the same on the back end.
All right.
I have a question.
Thank you. I just want to publicly state what I think we asked for citizens to understand. This is only to cover the actual expenses that have increased. This is no additional revenue than being generated for the county above and beyond the actual expenses. Is that correct, Ms. Cave?
That's correct. Yes, sir.
Thank you for making that
statement. Greatly appreciate your help.
Thank you, Joseph, for making that statement. I had a couple of questions relative to why it was being done. Okay, I'm with you.
Mr. Chairman? Yeah.
Yes.
When we do something like purchase new wells from Mr. Davis, how does that get allocated or amortized into the sewer and water district costs? Or is it strictly capital?
Right now, there is a debt, there's a water cost, sewer cost, and then debt costs. And those annual lease payments that we make are under the debt, under the water fund. So the purchase that we just made for Mr. Davis's well, $313,000, that was put in the water fund under debt service as a one-time payment. And then we'll continue to make annual lease payments from there as well.
So when we say we're increasing the water and sewer rates to cover cost increases, we're not changing the water rate, but we're increasing the cost of the water by buying those wells. Is that right?
Well, we were looking to cover operational cost increases. So, no, I wouldn't say we are increasing the costs.
But we are increasing the amount of money that's coming out of the general fund to support the water and sewer system.
This one time, yes, that was a one-time payment, and we don't begin, I get what you're saying, but it won't be a continuing cost. It won't be a continuing operating cost. We don't make his
sense, because I wouldn't want
for another 10 years. I'm sorry?
Yeah, to me, it makes sense that the existing users would cover operational costs because they're using that, but that they would not be expected to cover future capacity increases, infrastructure, et cetera, because that's for the purpose of future growth, which they're not directly responsible for. So
Yeah, I'm not proposing that.
Nor did I think you were. I'm just making sure I understand it correctly and voicing my support for what that is. No argument with you at all.
Thank you.
All right. Continue, Mr. Harvey.
Okay, item 12, tab 12, we've got a letter of resignation from Jim Davis. He's been the superintendent of the regional jail for the past 2+ years. And he's given us his last day is August the 14th of 2020. And as Mr. Gleason reported, it was a topic of discussion at the jail board meeting today.
All right.
Item 14, actually item 13 is a letter of resignation from Renee Trent Maxey. She runs Piedmont Court Services out of Farmville, but she provides services to Amelia. She's been here, working and helping folks in Amelia for over 20 years. Item 14 is a supplemental appropriation. These are two appropriations that we made, one to a line item in the sheriff's budget to put insurance money into the account to pay for damage that some of the cars had received, money in, money out. The second one is a payment of $600, which is the annual expense for the county attorney's, Commonwealth's attorney, cell phone. And this came out of the forfeited asset bank account.
Right.
Those were done. That's for information only. Piedmont Senior Resources, under tab 15, has submitted a report. County scorecard. I don't know, Mr. Scott might, or Harris might be able to elaborate on that a little bit, but we included it for your information.
Yeah, that's something that came out of a request that I made some time ago to try to determine whether all the counties were getting equal or equitable treatment with service, because Prince Edward and Nottoway use the vast majority of the services of Piedmont Senior Resources. And it just wasn't out in the open. And now we're tracking everything by county, and we're starting to do things like in the non-emergency medical transport. We're trying to push more of that towards other counties instead of just two taking up all the services. You'll notice that the senior population in Amelia, the clients that PSR has is only 6.8% of what PSR offers, and Prince Edward uses, 32, and Nottoway's 18. All the other counties are pretty low too. We're just trying to smooth it out and trying to get more services to the counties like Amelia.
As a follow-up to that, there is, I know that there is another senior citizens group that meets at down in my district and who don't utilize the services of PSR. I have been communicating with them and encouraging them to do so. It's just that they've been so used to running their own programs, eating their own lunches. They don't like pretty much the food, I think it is, but yeah,
the food is it's kind of like frozen TV dinners of the past. But on that note, though, PSR has just recently got an award of over $500,000 from the CARES Act to provide, and they're using it to provide hot meals, which they're working with local restaurants to provide this food. So some of the restaurants in Amelia may want to talk to Piedmont Senior Resources. It'll help them keep their kitchens going, and the food will be more attractive to people like you're talking about, Frank.
I passed that on to some of them, and I think they're going to have some second thoughts.
Mm-hmm.
All right.
How is it? I have one question.
Sure.
So I mean, I can see then the usage rates from here. How is the contribution determined? Do all the counties provide an equal amount of funding?
That's what originally started the conversation, Joseph. 'Cause
Exactly right.
each county was paying based on the senior population.
Per capita.
It's a percentage per capita, basically, not on the usage of the services, but on the how many elderly were in each county. And some of the counties that were using the services more than anybody were paying way less than anybody.
That's right.
But it was announced last night at the board meeting that Nottoway is coming up to, I think, $7,000 a year from $2,500, and Prince Edward's coming up to $10,000, more than double what they were paying before. So we from Amelia and other counties have been putting pressure on those counties to pay their fair share, and it's working.
Got it. This is very informative. Thank you for that effort, both of you.
All right. Good. All right. Number 9, Mr.
Okay,
16.
Okay, Amelia County employee health insurance bids. We had approximately a 35% rate increase proposed to us from Optima. We didn't have any choice but to go out for bid. Local choice came in much lower. I don't know if they're buying the business or what, but they made a bid that we didn't feel like we could turn down. Obviously, they offer an insurance that if you leave and you've had losses, you're going to pay them for the losses when you exit. But still, the 35% increase was too much to swallow. So we surveyed board members, and at the end of last week, we went ahead and notified local choice, and they've started open enrollment this week, and they will continue next week. Everybody's got to be enrolled by June the 1st.
So was I the only one with a concern about the self-funding, self-insure?
Yours was the most specific, but staff had it, and I think every supervisor did as well. It was just so much money difference between Optima and local choice. We didn't feel like we had a chance.
Yeah. I just wanted to be aware that there is the possibility that we're going to have to pay for some claims at the end of this period, and don't know if we want to put some money aside for that or just take it out of the general fund when it happens, if it happens. It depends on how many people get sick.
We had this before, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah. We exited before and we had to pay.
And we had to pay before.
Yeah, and was it a lot?
We knew what it was.
Yeah.
And it was still worthwhile to switch out of it. So,
Okay, well, that's what I was asking is, do we understand what it is this time, and are we prepared to cover that?
Well, we don't know Optima, but.
No. Do we know going into this new plan what the risk is of what we might have to pay at the end?
I think we could determine the risk if we knew how many people were going to get sick. I think it's actual claims and losses.
Yeah.
That's where it is.
Yeah.
Is our county known for having a pretty good loss ratio, or is it high?
We used to think it was good. I think Carla has had some direct conversation with Rachel that she might be able to shed a little more light on it.
Yes, Roger, we have a high loss ratio. That's why our increase was 35% from Optima. So we do have a lot of high claims and a lot of high pharmacy drug. So that's what drives our increase.
Yeah.
But we are aware of the risks.
Yeah, that's just my concern is a year or two from now, we might have to be doling out tens of thousands of dollars.
Yes, that's correct.
Okay.
I have a question, Mr. Chairman. Will we be directly saving any money versus last year's cost? So why don't we roll in that difference into the savings like Mr. Scott's talking about for that plan?
Well, we'd have to increase the budget then, technically, to cover that, correct?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. If,
Well, I thought we had, the budget was budgeted for the current with a projected increase.
The budget was budgeted for the,
Oh.
what, for
Oh.
20%, wasn't it, Carla?
30% is included in the budget.
30%, yeah. So we're going to save that amount of money.
Correct.
And I guess
I got you. Thank you.
I guess my question was, do we want to keep some kind of a insurance reserve in the budget?
Yes, just put that in a reserve, the savings.
Well, maybe not all of it.
Oh, right. I mean, you know, somebody could crunch the numbers.
We can work on that and give a little guidance.
okay.
The only other question I had is, there are some people that only got vision and dental. They didn't participate in the medical plan, and now they're excluded, is what I'm hearing. Is there some way that we can provide dental and vision separately for those people?
Our instructions were, or the way I heard it, was to make sure the employees don't lose when we were considering the insurance and the increases and things. And we're going to look at this. We're going to make sure, we're going to do everything we can to make sure nobody loses. Whether it's their.
This is a bundle. This is a bundled plan. So if you don't take medical, you don't get anything.
Unless folks really get creative. So
Okay.
we're going to take a look at that.
Okay.
Okay. Good. Any other comments?
So it's a done deal, right? We're going with local choice.
Yes, sir.
Okay, thank you.
Okay.
All right, Mr. Chairman, the next thing we've got, and we amended the agenda for that, is we need a nomination of Roger A. Scott to be reappointed to the Local Workforce Development Board.
All right, need a motion. Can I get a motion?
I'll make a motion.
All right, got a motion. Further discussion? Not, let's vote. District 1? District 2? Yes.
Aye.
District 3?
Aye.
District 4?
Aye.
And District 5 votes aye. That takes us through the agenda. Is there anything else that we need to address at this point? We got board members' comments. So let's take board members' comments. District 1.
I have none.
District 2.
I don't have any more comments.
District 3.
Nothing major. Just want to continue to thank our citizens for their support through all this new different board meetings and methods, and I appreciate their patience and all the support that we've been receiving.
District 4.
Yes, Mr. Chairman, I have a couple. I apologize, I didn't get my comments in quickly enough when we were discussing health insurance. I did not personally realize until very recently that the Board of Supervisors members are eligible to sign on to the county's health insurance. It's my understanding that none of us do, and I think that's great. So there's no extra cost to the county at this point. But I would like to propose that we change the rules and exclude the board from being eligible, as we are, as part-time employees of the county are not eligible, and we work less hours than most part-time employees too. So I don't think that's a good use of the county's funds going forward.
I don't think we've had any problem with this in the past. As long as I've been on the board, I don't think we've had any problems in the past. But if you want to pass a motion to that effect, it's up to you.
We had a board member using it when I got on.
I would say there were, yeah. I don't think there were problems, but there have been multiple board members that have used the insurance in the past. None currently, though.
Right.
So, Mr. Chairman, I would like to make a motion that we change the county's rules for healthcare insurance eligibility to exclude the Board of Supervisors from being eligible.
Got a motion. Further discussion on the motion? Not, let's vote. District 1,
No.
District 2,
Aye.
District 3,
Aye.
District 4,
Aye.
District 5 votes aye. Any
Thank you,
other?
gentlemen. I appreciate that. Yeah, I'm sorry. I had two more just quick comments. As today was, I believe, the first day of the local DMV office opening, I have heard a number of constituents today having challenges with that. Again, it was the first day, and I'm sure things will get more worked out, but I do hope we focus some efforts on improving that process. And lastly, I do want to comment that I have heard a lot of positive comments about the budget going forward, and the ones that I've heard positive far outweigh the number of concerns or negatives. Thank you, sir.
All right. Other comments? We need to set a continued meeting, Mr. Harvey.
You could, or, the budget doesn't take effect until July the 1st. You could wait until the June meeting and it wouldn't cause any problems with operations.
Okay, so what's the pleasure of the board?
That would be good.
That'd be good. All
What
right.
would be good, Joseph? Waiting till June?
Well, I just didn't know that if there was no need for an additional meeting, that seemed reasonable to me. And I think the nice thing about another month is it gives us plenty of time to continue to see what's going on in the situation with COVID-19, finances, et cetera, which are just so uncertain.
That's exactly right. That's good.
It's
I
only
just
my
have a
opinion,
question.
though. I mean,
What about as far as our workshops? Can we continue them, or when are we ever released to meet as a group in person, or are we just waiting on the governor?
Well, I think you can meet if you can manage you can meet in person if you can manage the social distancing rules and guidelines. If the board wants a workshop, I'm sure we can get one WebEx. Just need some instruction and some content, or we can meet in a room that's big enough to spread everybody apart.
I thought the first few were very productive, and then of course it kind of fell apart from there. But
Well, I don't think it fell apart. I think that it's on an as needed basis. I don't need to meet just to look at you guys.
No, but I think we need to start.
well, I think
We need to start talking.
it only didn't have. Yes, agreed.
We need to start talking about. We're planning on getting an economic development director. We need to start talking about what this person's going to do and how we're going to go about getting some of this EDA funding that Melody's been talking about, and start getting our planning done. We haven't really started discussing future plans when the pandemic hit. It just kind of stopped.
That hit everybody at once.
But it doesn't need to stop us from planning for next year, 2 years from now, 5 years from now. We need to get going on that. At least I think we do.
Well, we had a schedule that said when we were going to.
Yeah.
When did we say that? What did not we have a schedule?
We did. We had
Let's just keep the scheduled June one.
Why not keep the schedule that we've got?
Okay.
Do you have a subject? We can get on that.
Mr. Scott just mentioned one.
I'd be happy to just throw some things together for an agenda and give it to Taylor, and we can start banging it out.
That works for us.
That worked for us. All right.
Okay.
Is there anything else that needs to be brought to our attention?
I don't have anything.
All right, then I'm going to need a motion to continue, I guess, if we're going to stick with the workshops.
I think that's right.
So one question, if
The
For
workshop
instance-
is a continued meeting? I'm just making sure I understood. The workshops have been continued meetings? I thought we opened them as separate meetings.
Yeah, the workshops are
They've already
separate
been
meetings.
advertised. Yeah.
Well, that's right.
They've
They've
already
already been
advertised publicly.
advertised, so that's, I don't need it. There's no, there's not a need for a continued meeting of the board.
My question with the budget, Frank, is, for instance, the question about the reduction of 5 cents for the fire and rescue personal property tax. Where are we going to discuss that? You cut it off during the public comments. Do we want to talk about that now? Do we want to do it at the June meeting, the work session, or the full board meeting?
That's a good point. And I think Dr. Harper's also communicating that she can't move forward until we have an approval as well. So I think that is another impact.
If we're all in support of the budget the way it is, I don't see why we have to drag it out till June. I think we should just go ahead and get it done. It allows the schools to go ahead and start planning what they know what the number is.
All right, so we've got a week, we've got to let it lay on the table for a week, correct?
Yes, sir.
All right, then, anytime beyond that, what, let's see, this is, who's got,
We could continue this meeting to the same night as the board's work session and have a short budget talk in the beginning and then move on to the work session.
I would have.
That would be June 10th.
With that.
Well, that's not till the 10th, and I'm not sure, that's only a week earlier than the regular meeting. I wonder if that will actually meet the school's needs. I think Dr. Harper is still on. Maybe she's able
she's
to
still here.
tell us the impact.
Dr. Harper?
I don't know the impact.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir, I'm here. So our contracts generally go out in May and are returned in May. So we're already behind our timeline in terms of distributing contracts. And so the sooner you can meet, the better for us. We would greatly appreciate.
Well, based on that, I'll retract my earlier comments, and I'd support just having a short continued meeting next Wednesday, a week from tonight. If I understand the timeline correctly, that would meet it, Mr. Harvey.
I would agree.
Okay.
All right, I'd have no problem with that. So,
The 27th at
And it
7
would still
o'clock?
keep the workshop.
all right, so the motion is that we will continue this meeting till what, 7 o'clock? 7 o'clock on next Wednesday. What's that date?
27th.
27. 27. Okay. Further discussion on that date? If not, let's all vote on it. District 1,
Aye.
District 2,
Aye.
District 3,
Aye.
District 4,
Aye.
District 5 votes aye. That's when our next meeting will be. Thank you, gentlemen.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Good
Thank
night.
you.